What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Ultra League, running a team consisting of Drifblim in the lead with double fighters in the back, and I've got Shadow Machamp and Sirfetch'd. Initially I ran Sirfetch'd as the safe swap, as Brave Bird hits like a truck and can really do a lot of damage against a ton of Pokemon, but unfortunately pretty much every single game I was met with Cresselia as the counter switch in, and unfortunately Brave Bird is just not threatening at all to Cresselia. So eventually I actually elite TM'd the Shadow Machamp to give it a payback, and then changed Machamp to be the safe swap, and it certainly worked a lot better for when Cresselia did come in, as they didn't expect the payback and I was able to flip the switch advantage. But overall I had a decent amount of success with this team, probably one of the more successful teams I've run in recent weeks, but also probably less spicy than a lot of my teams, so that probably has something to do with it. Of course, the Drifblim in the lead, you don't often see Drifblim in the Ultra League because there are better ghost types available, but I thought, you know what, I've got this shiny costume Drifblim, why not power it up? It was a lucky, so not the best stats for PvP, but also it didn't cost a ton of Stardust to power up because it was lucky. Before we get into the battles, let's just quickly get into the question of the day. What is your favourite costume Pokemon that you like to flex in the Go Battle League? Let me know in the comment section, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle here, we lead into a Scrafty, so not the best lead, but fortunately we do triple resist the counter damage here. I get to an Icy Wind, I pause for a turn and then try to swap and catch a foul play, but my opponent is very well disciplined. They don't throw the foul play straight away, and unfortunately they swap into a Cresselia, which is a pretty hard wall to Sirfetch'd here. Even landing the Brave Bird, it barely does 50% to Cresselia's health, and they're easily able to take me out. I come back in with the Drifblim here, and I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball just before they can get to another charge move. We take out the Cresselia, and that was vital because I didn't want to be in foul play range from this Scrafty. So we took out the Cresselia as soon as possible. We tried to catch another move, but to be honest, I don't think my timing was very good there. My opponent stays in with the Scrafty, goes for a power punch, and then they come in with the Wall Rain there, so they just wanted a little bit of chip damage, so that now I should be close to Icicle Spear range from this Wall Rain. So I'm going to shield this up, and then going to over farm and go for a CMP tie with the Icicle Spear here, and we're able to get the final shield from this Wall Rain, but Icicle Spear is going to be enough to take out my Machamp from this range. But fortunately I put the Wall Rain low enough with all the counter damage that we can take him out with a Shadow Ball, and now I can get to an Icy Wind here before the Scrafty can get to a foul play. That's going to debuff their attack, meaning the foul play will do slightly less damage than before. We take that perfectly fine, and it's just a race to see who gets to the charge move, but Drifblim's going to get there first. Is Icy Wind enough to take them out? Yes it is, and we take that game despite a very poor lead matchup. Into the next game, we lead Drifblim into Mandibuzz, so this is actually very bad for my whole team. They are on Snarl, so I'm going to try and catch a foul play, but once again my opponent is very well disciplined and they don't throw as soon as they have the energy to. They go for an Aerial Ace there, which is not great. It's going to do about 50% of my health, meaning I do have to shield the next one, and they already have a shield from me. I go for a Rock Slide here against the Mandibuzz, and we get the first shield from my opponent, but they're already at the next Aerial Ace. This is not looking good for me. But of course they are staying in, so I'm thinking that my Machamp has a lot of value in this game. So I'm going to go for the Rock Slide here, and then switch back into the Drifblim, go for an Icy Wind on what looks like it's probably a CMP tie. We land the Icy Wind. Actually no, they didn't throw, but they switch out into the Registeel here. I'm going for the Shadow Ball. This will do a nice amount of chip damage, meaning that we should be able to take out the Registeel with a Cross Chop. Registeel goes for the Zap Cannon. It takes me out, but this is perfectly fine with me. Going to come in with the Machamp here, over farm a little bit, and then go for the Cross Chop. I know that the Registeel did slightly over farm against the Drifblim, so I didn't want to take too many risks there, so I threw the Cross Chop fairly early. I come in with the Sirfetch'd here, we tank the Aerial Ace, and we're just barely able to counter farm down this Mandibuzz before they get to another Aerial Ace. We go for the Brave Bird here. It's going to do massive neutral damage against this Ferrothorn, and my opponent doesn't throw a move. They probably realise it's over. We get to the Leaf Blade and we take out the Ferrothorn there. So GG's there, very close game. Once again, not a very good lead matchup for me. Into the next game, we lead into a Talonflame, so this is kind of where I want to see it. Although Machamp has a fairly decent matchup because of the Rock Slide coverage. What I like to do is go over with my energy and then go for a Shadow Ball against the Talonflame. This will do massive damage if they don't shield it, which they don't, and now I get an extra Hex through as they throw their move. I'm going to shield this up and then switch into Sirfetch'd here. I should be able to counter farm them down, but once again I'm met with a Cresselia here, and unfortunately even going for the Brave Bird, it's just not going to be threatening to this Cresselia. I throw on the CMP tire, which is perfect. They go for the Moonblast, so they do take us out instantly, which is what I wanted really from that matchup. We're going to go for the Shadow Ball here. I really want to take out this Cresselia, but they go for a shield, which is not ideal. I'm actually going to go for an Icy Wind here just before they reach the next charge move. I know this doesn't get a shield, but it is going to put them into low enough health where I should be able to take them out with a Cross Chop from my Shadow Machamp. My opponent goes for the move here, and I'm actually going to shield this up, and I think I'm going to go for a full counter farm down. My opponent tries to catch a move on Talonflame, but I was never going to throw there, and unfortunately for them, they have an Obstagoon in the back. We go for one Cross Chop, we get the shield, we go for another Cross Chop on the CMP tire with their Cross Chop or Night Slash, and then we should get to one more Cross Chop after one counter, and this is going to easily be enough to take out the Cresselia there, and we take that game. Unfortunately, I cropped that really weirdly, so just know that I did win that game. Into the next game, we led into a Typhlosion, so it's a fairly neutral matchup, so I switch into the Sirfetch'd here, and once again we're met with Cresselia. It seems like every single team has a Cresselia to just hard counter my fighting types in the back. That is the reason why we switch out of the lead matchup, even in neutral matchups, to bait out a Cresselia, but unfortunately it was just on every single team pretty much. We go for an Icy Wind here. I'm trying to put them into a range where I can actually just farm down with Hex, and then I have a ton of energy to throw into the Typhlosion that comes back in. They actually switch back into it, so I go for 3 Hexes, go for a Shadow Ball, and this will either do massive damage or get the shield. We get the shield from my opponent, so I'm going to switch into the Shadow Machamp, and at this point I'm going to 2-shield this Typhlosion and then go for a full counter farm down, and hopefully the massive amount of energy that I come out of this matchup with is going to be enough to take on whatever they have in the back. So they come in with a Swampert, I go for the Cross Chop, but they switch back into the Cresselia, and I didn't even notice that, so I didn't undercharge, so a very good catch by my opponent, and at this point I don't think we're going to be able to take this game. I go for the Cross Chop here, go for the next Cross Chop, this will do a decent amount of damage to the Swampert. I'm going to switch into the Drifblim, hoping that they throw straight away, but they do not, and they farmed up to nearly back-to-back Hydro Cannons. They get one more Mud Shot through, and they're going to be able to get to another Hydro Cannon, and that's going to take me out there. So a very good game by my opponent, very good catch there, and they were able to win that game. Into the next game, we lead into a Trevenant, so this is not a good matchup for me, because if they do get past this Drifblim, then Trevenant's pretty difficult to deal with. I go for the Icy Wind there, and I am gonna let this go through, calling the bait, but unfortunately it's a Shadow Ball, and things are not looking good for me. We are going to shield this up. I think they have enough for the Shadow Ball, but they bait with a Seed Bomb at this point, and now I'm thinking surely they don't have enough for a Shadow Ball now, so they go for another Seed Bomb, but because they're debuffed, that's not so threatening against the Sirfetch'd. I'm not messing around. I go for the Brave Bird against the Trevenant. You see I'm spamming out that switch button, trying to switch into Machamp. They come in with a Poison Jab, a Alolan Muck. I'm gonna no shield this. The worst that it can throw is an Acid Spray, and that is what they do. And now I'm gonna go for the Rock Slide here, as it does slightly more damage against in neutral matchups than a Cross Chop will do. And I'll go for another Rock Slide here, and hopefully this is going to take out the Alolan Muck. It barely doesn't, but we simultaneously KO, and now they have a Walrein in the back, so I'm in a good position here. I get to the back-to-back Leaf Blades. This first one's going to do a lot of damage, and the second one is just going to guarantee that I win this match. So we take out the Walrein there, and we take that game. So GG's to that opponent. Into the next game, we lead into a Scrafty. Once again, not a very good lead. I'm going to do the same thing here, pause for a split second, then switch, and this time we're able to catch the move on the Sirfetch'd, and it is a foul play, so that's a good catch. But once again, we're met with a Cresselia, and Cresselia just spoiled the fun of this team. There's no way I can win back switch advantage, but I'm going to go for the Brave Bird here. And once again, it barely does 50% to the Cresselia, and we are taken out there. So we're going to come back in with the Drifblim, and once again, we're going for the Shadow Ball, hoping that we don't take any moves from this Cresselia, meaning that we're still not in foul play range. And once again, we're going to try and catch a move on my Machamp, and this time we catch it once again, so that's perfect. For whatever reason, we got an extra counter through on the switch, which we shouldn't have done, but the game is still a little bit inconsistent, so stuff like that happens, unfortunately. We're going to shield this up, and hopefully we can counter farm down my opponent, and we are just barely able to, and that is thanks to the counter we got from the switch. So that kind of did impact this game. We go for the cross chop here. We get the final shield from the Stunfisk. I'm going to go for an Icy Wind to debuff my opponent before they can throw their move, as we do win the CMP tie. And now at this range we can actually tank 2 Rock Slides, so there's no pressure for me to shield straight away. One more Icy Wind wouldn't actually make much of a difference in this matchup. They'd still need 3 Rock Slides to take me out, so I go for the Shadow Ball here. It nearly takes them out, and at this point I'm able to Hex farm down the Stunfisk and take that game. So I got completely fed up of all the Cresselias hard punishing my Sirfetch'd, so I actually TM'd over Machamp to have payback, and now we're not met with a Cresselia, we're actually met with a Granbull. And if I'd have come in with the Sirfetch'd, then a Brave Bird would have been threatening there against the Granbull. But unfortunately they have a Granbull instead of Cresselia this time, and payback is resisted. And not only that, but they also force a shield from my Drifblim, so things are not looking good for me. I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball here against the Walrein, and then instantly switch into Sirfetch'd. My opponent switches out, and there is the Cresselia. Of course it is. Even when we change things up to try and counter Cresselia, Cresselia still finds a way to ruin the day. So we're going to go for a bait here with the Leaf Blade. To be honest, I don't expect them to shield, and they don't. We go for the Brave Bird here against the Cresselia. It does a lot of damage, but they're able to farm me down, and there was just nothing I could do there, unfortunately. So we do lose that game, which is unfortunate, but hopefully we can bait out some Cresselias, and finally we do, and we have the payback here. So we're going to get to it on the CMP tie with the Cresselia. Because my opponent was slightly slow to switch out, we land it. It does huge damage, and at this point I'm guaranteed to win back switch advantage, because I can go for a cross chop here on the CMP tie with the next charge move, and this should either get a shield or take out the Cresselia. We get the shield, which is perfectly fine. I'll shield this up, and then I can counter farm down this Cresselia and come out with a cross chop loaded. My opponent comes in with the Swampert. I go for the catch on the Hydro Cannon there, and once again I get an extra fast move through. Doesn't really make a difference here, but I don't know why that is happening sometimes. We go for the Shadow Ball, and it's actually a CMP tie, so I guess that does kind of make a difference, because now they're in a much easier range for me to come in with the Machamp and just cross chop, farm them down. We go for the cross chop here as we approach 100 energy, but I'm actually going to undercharge this so I can get a few more counters in, and then they come back in with the Swampert. I'm actually going to switch to the Sirfetch'd here, because the Leaf Blade is easily going to threaten Swampert, and at this point the game is over. We get the final shield. I have 2 cross chops loaded, so I'm going to let this Swampert take me out. They actually just go for the Hydro Cannon, and I'm able to get to another Leaf Blade. I don't have to charge this up, and I'm able to take that game. So finally the Shadow Machamp is able to punish that Cresselia that came in to try and punish my fighting type, so that's perfectly fine. That's exactly how I want the team to work. And once again we go for the extra, expecting them to throw as soon as they get to the charge move, but they don't, so I throw the Shadow Ball just before they throw theirs. They go for the Brave Bird, so I'm going to switch into my Shadow Machamp. My opponent instantly switches into a Shadow Swampert here, and we're going to shield up the Hydro Cannon here, go for a cross chop on the CMP type with this Swampert. We get the shield, and now I'm going to shield this up, and I should be able to counter farm down the Swampert just before they get to the next Hydro Cannon, and that's exactly what we're able to do. They come back in with the Talonflame, I go for 2 counters, and then I throw the cross chop. I couldn't remember how much energy they had, so I go for the second cross chop straight away up against the Talonflame. We're able to take it out, and they come in with a wall range, so this game is done and dusted. I still have a Sirfetch'd in the back, so they're going to get to the Icicle Spear. This will take out the Machamp, but I can come in with the Sirfetch'd. Actually, my opponent doesn't let me, because they realise the game is probably over and they concede the match. Into the next game, we lead into a Shadow Crobat. This is actually a Pokemon I really wanted to invest in, but I don't really have any suitable Shadow Zubats or Golbats that I can evolve and power up, because they all don't really have the best stat distributions, and I also don't really want to invest in an XL one just in case the Premier Cups come back. Shadow Crobat is pretty good for the Premier Cups. But anyways, enough of this rambling. I am gonna be able to win the switch up against this Drapion, but not before they force a shield from me, but I am going to be able to counter farm them down. I'm going to go for the payback straight away, not sure if I survive an air slash, and we get the shield, and we did just barely survive that air slash, so maybe I could have got 1 counter in there, but it wouldn't have made much of a difference. We go for the Icy Wind. We get the shield here up against the Crobat. I'm going to shield this up. It could be enough for a Shadow Ball. It is just a Poison Fang. My opponent switches into a Toxicroak, so I'm going to go for the Icy Wind here and then throw 1 more Hex just before they have a Sludge Bomb, and then switch into the Sirfetch'd here. Now my goal here is just to put this Toxicroak low enough that I can farm it down with the Drifblim without taking any more charge moves. So I go for the Leaf Blade there, I undercharge it, and this is perfect. My opponent throws the energy into the Sirfetch'd, meaning I can come in, Hex, farm them down, and now I'm just 1 Hex away from the back-to-back Icy Winds. We're going to go for the first one here. It nearly takes out the Crobat, but I'm able to get to the second one, and this Icy Wind will surely take out the Crobat. And I think my opponent might have exited the app or something, but I'm able to take that game. Into the next game, we lead Drifblim into another Talonflame. So once again, I'm going to play this exactly the same. Going to go over the Shadow Ball by 1, go for the Shadow Ball just before they throw their move, and we land it, and that is perfect. I'm actually going to let this go through. And once again, my opponent goes for the Brave Bird, and once again, we both simultaneously swap. They go into the Swampert, I go into my Machamp, so this is looking very similar to one of the previous games. We're going to shield this up and play it out exactly the same way we did before. We can commit to a full counter farm down, so we're going to shield this up once again, and I'm not going to throw a move because otherwise they will get the extra mud shot through, and I'm able to counter them down before they get to the last Hydro Cannon there. They come in with a Cresselia, so this is perfect. I'm going for the payback. Will we land it? Yes, we will. It does massive damage, and I'm going for the cross chop here. Unfortunately, my opponent catches it on the Talonflame, so I undercharge it, and then I'm able to counter them down before the Incinerate damage registers. And as well, the Cresselia throws a move as soon as they come back in, which is perfectly fine by me. I come in with the Sirfetch'd, go for the Leaf Blade straight away. I'm going to overfarm slightly and then switch into the Drifblim, force them to throw their energy, and that's what they do. And now I should be able to get to a Leaf Blade before Cresselia can get to their next charge move, and I'm going to be able to take out this Cresselia here. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead Drifblim into yet another Scrafty. So Scrafty seems like a reasonably common lead these days. And once again, I try to catch the foul play, but my opponent is disciplined. But it looks like they don't have an answer to fighting type Pokemon because they come in with a Shadow Drapion. They go for an Aqua Tail that actually does quite a lot of damage to us because of the chip damage from the Scrafty's counters. But I'm able to get to a cross shot before they can throw their second Aqua Tail. We get the shield from my opponent, and at this point I'm going to shield this up, and then I will be able to flip switch advantage in my favour. I'm just 1 counter away from the next cross chop. My opponent comes back in with the Scrafty, and if they don't go for the foul play, which they don't, I'm going to be able to get to another cross chop here, and this should be getting the final shield from my opponent, which it does. Now I'm going to come in with the Sirfetch'd here. My opponent switches into a Registeel, so I'm going to go for a Leaf Blade before my opponent gets to a Zap Cannon. This way it will do more damage. Unfortunately, both my charge moves are resisted, and we lag there so we don't get the extra counter through when they throw their charge move, but that's perfectly fine by me. We farm up to the Brave Bird. I'm going to switch into the Drifblim, go for the Shadow Ball, and they should be in range for me to KO them with the Shadow Ball, and at this point it's game over. I have a Brave Bird loaded on the Sirfetch'd. I'm just patiently waiting for the Scrafty to take out my Drifblim so I can come back in with the Sirfetch'd, and Brave Bird is easily going to be enough to take out the Scrafty, and we take that game. So GG's to that opponent. And into the final battle of the video, we lead into an Alolan Muck. I'm actually going to stay in initially because usually Alolan Mucks run Poison Jab as the fast move, and because we are a Ghost type, we do resist the Poison Jab damage. We go for the Icy Wind after 5 hexes, and then we switch out into the Machamp. My opponent doesn't throw their energy, which is a very good play by them. They switch into a Tapu Fini, and unfortunately we only have resisted moves to throw into the Tapu Fini, but I want to at least get a shield back from my opponent. We get the shield with the cross shot, and my opponent realizes that they're not going to be able to farm down before I get to another cross shot, so they throw the Surf, and I should be able to farm down this Tapu Fini. Now I'm spamming out the switch there, and unfortunately we get the stutter lag just as they come back in, so I'm not able to switch out. Now I switch out, but fortunately they have a Wall Rain in the back, so I'm going to let this move go through from the Wall Rain. Icicle Spear does a decent amount of damage, but that is okay. I get to the back-to-back Leaf Blades. As they get to the next Icicle Spear, we get the shield from the Wall Rain. I'm going to shield this up, and hopefully I can counter farm them down and then go for a Brave Bird up against the Muck, but unfortunately I'm not able to. I have to throw the Leaf Blade here. We take out the Wall Rain, and will we get to the Brave Bird? Yes we will, and this is easily going to be enough to take out this Alolan Muck, and we take that final game. So GG's to my opponent there. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, then make sure you leave a like, leave a comment and let me know. And as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And with that being said, let's get into the shoutouts from my previous GBL video. So firstly, we've got CoolGreek79 who says they powered up not one but 2 Sigilyphs, one of them level 50 and one of them level 44 for the Ultra League. This is a regional Pokemon, so I have no idea what moves it learns, but I quickly looked it up just now and its moveset is awful, so a very questionable investment, or 2 investments there, but fair enough. Next we've got Nabil, and unfortunately I don't know how to pronounce your surname, so I'm not going to try, but they said they invested in an XL Skorupi and it has a lot less CP than they expected, and I also looked this up and it was like 1100 CP, so yeah, definitely a strange investment to make. You can see what CP it goes to when you power it up, but I don't know what went through their mind, but a very questionable XL for sure. And finally, we've got Aiden Nail, who says that this question of the day was made for them because they've got a ton of XL Pokemon that they've invested in. The first was a Skarmory. Most used spicy level 50 is Kanto Sandshrew, and the spiciest is their level 50 rank 2 Garbodor. But that's not it. There's a ton more XLs that they've invested in. So yeah, I'm not going to read all of them out, but they have invested in a ton of different XL Pokemon, so that's why they're also getting a shout out. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.